Hey, I would like to welcome you to our first attempt to have an alternative to a town hall meeting. And we can say town's hall meeting because we have people from other cities here also. But I jokingly said that when you have a town hall meeting, you only got 3 people that have a current right. But I was hoping if we have a meeting like this where we're going to give out some good information for you to use in your different walks of life, that this would generate a bigger crowd that would be interested in this. So whether you came for the 2 speakers or the lunch, doesn't matter. You're here. And we have about 70 registrations, and I thank the chamber workers for taking their reservations, and Brad House for doing a tremendous amount of work. I was just an idea person, and everybody else did the work, so I paid to be the mayor this time. Plus, I'm under the weather, so probably wouldn't have got the job done at the last anyhow. We're going to start off, we have titled this Future Essential Housing in Roads. And just for the sake of Jason Van Sickle, before I tell you a little bit about him, so you know who's in the audience, we have Randy Frazier, City of Mountain Ridge, and Gary Fisher, City of Mountain Ridge. Over here, we have Randy Watson, USD 418, which is another governmental entity. And we have Greg Dumars and Gary Shulgren from Lindsberg. So we have several communities here that you'll be talking about. Jason is president of J. Van Sickle and Company. He launched a rural housing prototype. He's organized the Kansas Rural Housing Conference that was held last month in Wichita. He spearheaded the statewide Kansas Housing Research Project. He's a training statistician and understands research and analysis. He's released the housing data reports for 150 Kansas communities, including McPherson, and that just came out about 2-3 weeks ago. Jennifer made that link available to you on those of you throughout the chamber email, and you can ask for a copy of it from the city or the chamber. We're more than happy to send that to you digitally. Jason has presented this city leadership in the past to us and also to circles of McPherson County on some low-income housing. So with that, I'd just like to introduce him, and we'll go from there.
Well, thanks for letting me come out today. I appreciate having this opportunity to visit with you a little bit. First, appreciate the mayor's introduction. I'm going to kind of cover a couple things that he'd already said, but let me go through and tell you a little bit about who I am, and then we'll figure out how to handle a mic and a phone and a clicker at the same time. So a little bit about my background. First of all, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I was the son of an architect there, Jeff Van Sickle, and the son of a nurse. And both my parents had a real focus in life, not just on their professional careers and their family, but they did a lot of public service, volunteered for a lot of organizations, very active in the community, and I felt like that was a legacy. It was my responsibility to continue. So as I talk to you today, I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. One, some of the things I'm doing in private business, and then also some of the things that I've been trying to spearhead in working with communities to address housing issues, because to have a strong community, you have to have a couple key things. One is jobs, so that people have a place to work and earn an income. Two is housing, so that you have adequate place for people to live when they're in their community. Then there's other key things like infrastructure, like roads and transportation and those kind of things. So, but housing has been a big and continuous issue for towns like McPherson. It's been an issue for all Kansas communities, so whether you're 1,300 or 13,000 like McPherson. And it's been a big enough issue now for long enough that the governor announced back in December that it was going to be one of his top priorities in the year ahead to really try to figure out how to help Kansas communities, especially Kansas rural communities, deal with the fact that they don't have the right quantity or quality of housing available. So back to me and my background. My academic background, again, I grew up in Wichita, went to Wichita State University, where I got my undergraduate degree in philosophy and math, of all things. And so, well, it didn't really make my parents excited at the time. They were wondering what the heck I was going to do with that. But so then I thought I'd be more practical. I went and got a graduate degree in sociology. But really what I liked was I liked trying to understand people, understand populations, understand why, why we behave the way we do as individuals and why we interact with each other in these social groups. So I went to school and really wanted to learn about those kind of things. Then I got out of school and realized I had to have a career. I had to earn some money at some point, because along the way, as I got my undergraduate degree, I also got married and had a couple kids. And so I really, your whole perspective changes on life when you go from being a young single guy to a parent of 2 kids. And so I sat down and said, what do I want to do with my life? I really wanted to make a conscious decision about which career path I went down, because I had seen the power through my dad and other people that I knew growing up of really finding a focus and specializing and building expertise. And I was reading Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations at the time that talks about the fundamental importance of land and improvements on land and of real estate to the health of a society. And so I decided, I want to go into real estate development. I loved, as I was a kid, seeing projects my dad was involved in, whether it was an empty field turning into a building, or whether it was an old building being fixed up and put back into use. And also, there's a lot of money in real estate. If you go into the right part of it, you work hard and grow some expertise. So I decided I wanted to eventually go into real estate development, but you don't just decide one day you're going to be a developer and go out and start developing things. You got to build some skills and insight and knowledge before you can get to that point. So the first thing I did is I went to work for a company called Martin's Companies in Wichita. They're the largest commercial appraisal firm, not just in Wichita, but in the state of Kansas. And I was there for a couple of years learning how to value real estate by doing appraisal analyses. Great way to start out my career. After that, I went to work for a hotel chain called Value Place, started by a guy named Jack DeBoer, who also started Residence Inn, started Candlewood Suites, started Summerfield Suites. I got hired as the first researcher. There was only one Value Place hotel at the time that I started, and only about 7 or 8 people working there. When I left several years later, I built the entire research and market planning department. I had a staff of 12 people, just myself. And in 1 year alone during that period, we had worked on building 100 hotels. So an incredible learning experience when it comes to real estate development. After Value Place, I kind of took a little different direction. I went to work for the WSU Center for Real Estate. Their director, Stan Longhofer, at the time had approached me and said, I know you built the research department for Jack out of Value Place, and I'm just a one-man show at the WSU Center for Real Estate, and I'd really like to build research capacity here, but we don't get any tuition dollars. We're totally funded just through donations and grants, and so would you help me build a business plan and create a research department? And I did, and he offered me the job as their first research analyst for the WSU Center for Real Estate. So I accepted that because I thought it was a really interesting opportunity to have gone through my education phase of my life, gone into the real world and got that experience, and then go back and look at the academic side. Because when I was in school, I didn't do any academic work with regards to real estate. So went to the WSU Center for Real Estate and built their department. So what do you do when you've got a background in philosophy and sociology and you build a career in research and development? What kind of perspective do you have on real estate? And I have what I call cooperative collaboration. It's a business philosophy of mine that not only connects with the real estate development that I do, but also all the businesses that I'm involved in and all the relationships that I'm involved in. And cooperative collaboration is simply the idea that individuals and organizations can act together, combining and sharing resources in an effort to achieve a common goal. And that really does pervade every level of the things that I'm involved in, whether it's the apartment prototype or the Kansas Rural Housing Conference. And for me, it really means the power of public-private relationships, private partnerships. So communities working together with private industry. This facility is a great example. We're here today for this great public event, but it's a community business here that has helped to create this facility and create jobs, and that's a public-private partnership. So when I left the WSU Center for Real Estate, I started my own firm, J. Van Sickle and Company, and started off doing doing some consulting to pay the bills, but eventually got around to doing my own real estate project as a developer. So I developed what's called Chisholm Lake Apartments in Wichita. It broke ground about a year and a half ago, 216 units, a $20 million project. It got finished last August, and it's leased up incredibly quickly. It was a very successful project. But this was the first application of this cooperative collaboration idea that I had to the business world, because what I did is I didn't just do what a typical developer would do, which is go hire an architect, a contractor, engineers, go buy some land and build some apartments. I went to contractors, architects, engineers and said, will you be my partner? Will you equity in a part of your fees, your profit into this project to be owner partners with me? I went to the landowner and said, will you equity in your land to be an owner partner with me? The idea was everybody would have skin in the game. Everybody would be the owner partners on the project. And then the other thing that I did is I worked closely with the city. I worked closely with the city and talked to our separate city representatives, had local community meetings to talk to nearby populations to see if they like what we were planning on building and wanted us to do the project, and got support from the city. I even went to the Parks Department. If you're ever in Wichita and you have a chance to go by our property, it's right next to Chisholm Park. And Chisholm Park is run by the city's Parks Department, and it's a great park, but it had a chain link fence that people had cut into and crawled through, and